Hey everybody, it's Bjorn Johnson, General Manager at TraVek. Welcome to the Before the Hammer Strikes podcast. We're really excited to have you here today, and we actually are excited to have our guest. We've got Anthony, who is CEO of RaisinBread, and we're going to get into what that name is and what that means. And no, we're not doing a cooking show today on the podcast, but we'll let Anthony talk to you just a little bit about what that is. But first and foremost, Anthony, thank you for being here with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You want to share with us a little bit about what's your background, what got you into what you're doing, and are you from the area?
Actually, I'm originally from the South. I'm a Southern boy from Mississippi, and
Okay.
so, but been around in a lot of different places. Been in insurance business really. It's been my main career. My first job, though, out of college was working for the airline industry.
All right.
But I've been in insurance, God, almost 30 years. I've worked for Chubb for about 10 years, and then I worked for the Nationwide family of companies for, God, almost 20.
Wow.
Right? But I'm still a young guy, right?
Oh, sure.
Very
young at heart.
Yeah,
for
young,
sure.
young at heart, right? But I've done quite a bit, from being a frontline underwriter to leading sales teams to being a regional vice president to actually being president of one of the companies locally that Nationwide owned and ran called Western Heritage. And, one of the companies that was about tough risk, right? So it's in my DNA, and I call myself an insurance nerd too, right?
Okay.
So, but love Arizona. Just wish I had gotten here sooner, right? I've been
Yeah.
here, I've been here about 11 years.
Okay. So you haven't been here a short time. Like
No,
you're
no.
used to it. Your blood's thinned out just a little bit.
Man, I went home to Mississippi, and it was, the weather changed a little bit. I was like, man, it is freezing here,
Yeah.
right?
It's crazy, right? I just went and visited my sister. She's up in Salt Lake City, actually.
Right.
And I've only been here a couple of years. But man, we showed up there and it was, 42 degrees, and they're playing cornhole outside, and I'm freezing. Like it was freezing cold. So I think my blood's starting to thin too.
I'll tell you a quick funny story, though. I was living in Iowa, and I was on a call with some folks on our team back in Columbus, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I was driving my car because it was early in the morning, right, and the time difference. And it was the winter, and the temperature gauge said minus 22.
Jeez.
Again, I told you I'm from the South,
Yeah.
right? And so I said, you know what? I actually got to get out of here. And so Arizona was a welcome relief, even though it's hot, but I love it here.
Yeah. Good. Well, we had talked previously, and you and I had a chance to sit down and just kind of throw notes across the table to each other and talk previously. You've got a little bit of a tech background as well. And something that I find is really interesting, I think when people think about insurance, they don't necessarily think tech.
Right.
They don't necessarily think cybersecurity and insurance even fit together. But as you've started this company and you're the CEO of this company, you've merged the two of those together a little bit. And so I want to get into that later.
Yeah.
But it's something that's really interesting to me. Tell us, why RaisinBread? Like, where did this name come from?
I actually get this question. I literally 5 times a day,
Okay.
right? And the people that I interact with. There was actually three partners in our company when we first started, and one of them happened to be in India. And so we were having this meeting. It was dinner time for him, but we were having a conversation about 2 things: money to start our business,
Yeah.
and we were talking about what's the name of our company, right? And so we're having this conversation, and those 2 conversations were kind of blending together.
Sure.
I actually ran a contest with creators from all over the world. You could actually go out and put $300 out there, and you'll be surprised at what kind of stuff you can get from a creative standpoint.
I'm
right?
sure. Yep.
So I did that. I narrowed it down to about 20 names with 5 that I really liked. To that end, I presented it to our group, and these guys didn't like any of them.
Of course
right?
not.
So I'm frustrated as
Yeah,
heck, right?
yeah.
Now the guy at dinner, the partner at dinner, actually took a picture and sent it to us, right? Now, in that conversation, we were talking about money and the money we needed for the business and all that, and the words raising capital, raising money, right? And he he was having dinner, right? And he sent a picture of, guess what?
Yeah, the bread.
A loaf of raisin bread.
Okay.
And we laughed and laughed about this, right? And we thought that, hey, that's kind of interesting, but it's kind of a joke as well, right? And so we laughed about it. But the more we talked about it and the more we thought about it, we thought it was really unique. It was memorable, right? It would gather attention. And the more we played with it, we said, hey, this actually really fits what we want to do,
Yeah.
right? And the thing you think about when you think about RaisinBread, most people will say my grandmother used to serve. I used to walk in the house and I could smell raisin bread, right, cooking, or my grandmother's just done it. And so for us, simplicity, transparency, right, and the ability to be and consistency. Those are actually tenets that we actually have. Our goal in our business is to make insurance simple, and so we started really aligning to the name RaisinBread. So it was kind of a cool story. But
it's an awesome story.
I tell it every day.
I mean, it is a great story, and I think you're spot on from a simplicity standpoint. Insurance can be complicated enough, and so I love that the name is so simple. That there's got some meaning to it. There's a story behind it, but it really speaks to how you guys simplify insurance and make it so much easier for people. Now, I want to get into something that's a little bit deeper.
Sure.
The name is fun. I love the name.
Yeah.
But there's this tone out there that there's a cyber crisis happening right now in the world we live in. Not to have fear tactics or things like that, but what is this crisis? Why is it critical for what we've got going on today in business or for homeowners? What are the issues that people are seeing pop up or that you're seeing pop up now that you've married cybersecurity to insurance?
Sure. Yeah, so I'll ask you to indulge me just a little bit. But so I actually, just kind of preparing for this, right, I actually went and looked up the word crisis just so that I'd have a very clear definition. So the word crisis refers to critical, decisive, unstable situation that demands immediate attention, action due to potential to cause significant harm or change. Is often characterized by uncertainty, urgency, the need for swift decision making, and crises can occur in various contexts, including personal, societal, political, global, and on global scales.
We don't have any of that going on right now.
We don't have any of that going on. So just think about it for a second. If you look at the news, you hear an escalation of cyber attacks, right?
Yeah.
These big, and you hear really the big stuff that's happening, right?
Of course.
Colonial pipeline and things like that, right? So just because I'm an insurance nerd, let me give you some facts, right? In the fourth quarter of 2022, there were over 253 million individuals affected by a data compromise in the U.S.
Jeez.
That's the U.S. alone, right? By 2024, this year, the average global cost of a data breach, $4.88 million.
Wow.
So just think about that for a second, right? And just to show you how quickly this is going. So if I go back to some stats about reported incidents, right? In 2018, in the U.S. alone, there's about 351,000 reported incidents. Reported, not. And so just think about reported versus unreported.
Unknown even, or
and
unreported.
The cost, $2.7 billion.
Jeez.
Right? Now, but just follow me just for a second. In 2020, 791 incidents reported, 791,000 incidents, $4.2 billion. And then when you get to 2024, the first three quarters, look, the number of incidents right now through the first three quarters is estimated at 750,000 incidents.
Wow.
Right? $10.3 billion. In 2025, they're projecting globally that the costs associated with cyber attacks and incidents, $10.5 trillion.
Trillion with a T.
Trillion with the T.
So this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to move around and unpack here.
There are a lot of pieces to it.
You've done your research because you live this daily. But for our audience, I just want them to kind of wrap their brain around what this means. Like, $1 trillion is a big number.
So that's larger than some of the GDPs of some countries.
Yeah. And a lot of people are affected by this.
Right.
Personally, obviously, you're affected by cyber attacks and things like that. But what are the factors that are increasing cyber attacks in the world that we live in right now? And I guess, why does it affect businesses? How are businesses struggling to keep up with the impact there or those factors?
So really kind of two questions in that, right? And so why are cyber attacks becoming more frequent, right? And then why can't businesses keep up?
Yeah.
Right? So just think about it. So it's like we've opened this door for these incredible opportunities, right? Digital opportunities. But somehow we've seemed to not made the door very secure.
Sure.
Right? And so if you think through that, there's a rapid digitalization, right? And so businesses are adopting all kinds of new technology, which is cool. Making it easier to do business.
Tech
right?
is awesome. It creates some efficiencies and yeah.
But on the other side of it, from a skill set standpoint, we don't have enough people in the tech space to be able to fill all these jobs. And so there's a skills shortage of people in the cybersecurity space. You hear colleges advertising for people for cybersecurity programs
Of course.
all across the country,
Yeah.
right? We just don't have enough people to do it. So a lot of vulnerabilities aren't even being addressed yet. The other thing is the attack surface, right? What I mean by that, if you think about COVID, we realized that people could work remote more than we ever have, right?
Right.
And people are. They're using their computers. They're using the company's computers, right?
Yep.
There's the Internet of Things, right? Remember when that was the big phrase, Internet of Things and
Yeah.
devices and connectivity? Well, it's not what people talk about now, but it's all in play, and it's now just exploding,
Yeah.
right? And then if you think through that, you got more interconnectivity of systems, right? It's the same thing, though. Not only is this for people, it's for businesses. It's even for the governments, right? It's
Right.
the connectivity of all these things that make us so much more vulnerable.
Yeah.
And then probably the last thing I'd say is that if you go from country to country, city to city,
There's going
right,
to be exposure.
there's exposure. But the other thing is that enforcement for cyber crimes, it varies, right? And so cyber criminals are often operating in places where the regulations are weak and the enforcement is not what it could be.
Sure.
And so it makes it difficult to really hold people accountable. So just think about this. So I'll give you an example. There's a what's called ransom as a service, right? So cyber criminals are so enterprising that they've created this ransom as a service. And if you know anything about software as a service, as an example, right? You get to rent the software, use it. You can actually be a criminal to criminal, and you can use their software to hold somebody ransom. Look, and they got call centers. So when
They're smart and ambitious. It sounds like my word.
They got call centers where when a person is trying to solve a ransom and pay the ransom and all that, they take your payments.
I'm sure they will.
They'll ask you, they make the service of being able to pay for your ransom very, very easy and simple. I mean, I find it amazing.
This is incredible. But part of the gap is that they're set up in countries or areas where it's not policed or it's not.
If you think about the
focused
top four,
on.
you think about the top four countries, it's Russia, it's China, it's the U.S., right? And then it's also Ukraine, right? And so there's the top four countries that, from a cyber criminal standpoint, are where most of the stuff is coming from, right?
Yeah.
And so you can just imagine the landscape of what cyber criminals are navigating in all those countries and what they're not having to deal with in those countries as well.
Right. So do you mind if I'm selfish just for a minute?
Go ahead.
We're a growing business. We're not $1 billion business. We're not $1 trillion business. And we're a contractor.
Yep.
And so I imagine that there's a lot of our audience that are also in our industry. They're in our field. A lot of the homeowners are in our demographic anyway, are business owners. They're running businesses. Why are contractors or smaller or growing businesses more vulnerable to this? And I guess help us understand how cyber security insurance works, because I think before you and I talked, I didn't even know it was a thing.
Right.
Like we have all these different insurances, but obviously there's a problem. But what is cyber insurance? And why should a business have it? And why are we vulnerable?
Sure. So let me just put you in this space, right? You're a contractor. You're juggling multiple projects, right? You got blueprints. You got client contracts. You got payment schedules, and all that stuff's digital on your computer, right? And let's just say one morning you walk into your office and you turn on your computer and you get this message. The message says, "Hey, either pay us $50,000 in Bitcoin, or we're going to keep your files locked and you'll never be able to access your files. Or we're going to share all your information and your client's information out to the rest of the world."
Right.
What do you do, Bjorn? What do you do?
To be honest with you, I have no idea. I freak out. I think on that point, I think that a lot of people, when they see something like that, and this is naivety, right? They may think, oh, it's a phishing scam, or it's not legit, or it's not real. And then I'm assuming that it becomes real pretty quick if it is.
If you get that message, you are now in some serious trouble with your files if you get a message like that. So think about this. Small business make up 43% of all cyber attacks.
Wow.
So
43%?
43%.
Okay.
And when I say small businesses, we're talking small businesses are defined as 0 to 10 million in sales.
Okay.
Right? So just thinking through that. And then the average cost of an attack, right, for a small business is $200,000.
Wow.
Right? So what I'm positioning you for is saying, not only do you need it, right? Because $200,000 can actually bankrupt a small business.
Hey, it can cripple somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. So what happens when you got insurance though? Insurance covers the financial loss, right? And like hiring, you got to hire a team of people. So if you had to go do it yourself, you wouldn't even know where to start
No,
mostly,
wouldn't
right?
have
You're
any
now on the
clue.
internet trying to figure out what to go do.
Yep.
Well, when you have cyber insurance, what comes with that is one is they'll pay the ransom depending on the claim and the circumstances, right? But that's what it's built to do, right? They'll provide resources like forensics, investigation, and accounting so they can actually figure out where the loss came from,
Right.
right? And then they actually will offer tools like risk assessments, cybersecurity training, things like that that are now part of your repertoire. So insurance brings a lot to bear before and after a claim happens.
Sure.
Right? I'll give you an example going forward though with the contract, and this is actually a live situation where it was a roofing contract. So I brought this one because it's you.
Sure.
Right?
Well, thanks.
And
This is your fear tactic. We're going to be signing up with cyber insurance
I am simply
after
not
you
trying
walk
to do
out
that.
the
I
door.
am trying to educate though, right? And so here's the situation. The roofing contractor gets an email, and it was an email requesting an invoice be paid by one of their vendors,
Sure.
right? The invoice in the email looks so legitimate, right, that they didn't really give it a second thought. But the only thing that probably was a signal for them, it was a new bank account associated with this vendor, right? They wound up transferring $85,000 to pay the vendor,
Right.
$85,000, and now that money is actually gone.
Right.
And guess what? The real vendor is doing what? Calling and saying, hey, I hadn't gotten paid.
I still haven't gotten paid yet.
Right. So now so the impact of this is this. You got a financial loss, right? You are now not able to meet your customers' needs because you now may not have the additional funds, right? Causing some issues. Your workflow is being disrupted, right? Because now you're going forward. You're going to look at everything with a fine tune, with the fine tooth comb, and then you got trust issues between you and your vendor.
Yeah, your reputation is damaged to a certain extent.
You're debating it with your vendor and saying, "I paid you,"
Yeah.
right? But here's what insurance does, right? So in this case, what they had to do is they had to report the claim to the insurance company. They got to report it to the authorities, right? And they got to report it to the bank, right? Because all that documentation is needed for filing a claim, right?
Right.
Now, the insurance coverage now kicks in because it was a fraudulent transfer. They kick in. They paid the $85,000 less the deductible.
Sure.
Right? And then they also made available training for the employees, right? So as they go forward, helping them with things like thinking about
And stay out of that situation.
yeah, how to stay out of it, but MFAs, multiple factor authentication, right? Employee security training, phishing training. So insurance does a lot for you when you're involved in that. And just thinking through that, you want your insurance carrier to be your partner anyway.
Of
I don't
course.
care what coverage you buy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting story. Like, I think that, and I want to tie that back to what you talked about earlier. We have this big number of those that go unreported. So I can imagine that there are so many small businesses or growing businesses that have this happen to them and they don't even report it. They don't even talk about it. Probably for a lot of those same reasons. They don't want their brand or their reputation to be tarnished. They're embarrassed.
They don't want their customers to know.
They don't want their customers to know. And so having that insurance in place, that's a really good decision for a business owner.
Absolutely.
Gosh, so we could sit here and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I'm really fascinated about this. I'm interested in some of this stuff because I came from the tech world, and I love how you've married the two of these together to really protect small and growing businesses. Um, where can people find you? Like if they're hearing this right now and they've watched this podcast and their interest is as piqued as mine is, how do they have a conversation with you or your team to know, hey, should I be looking at this or should I be interested in this?
Yeah, absolutely. So our website is myraisinbread.com. So you can go right on our site. You can actually click and start getting a quote, or you can actually talk to us through our chat feature. So we make it as easy as possible. Our phone numbers, our contact information, all that stuff is, info at myraisinbread.com is where if you got questions, you can get to us as well. We make it easy for you to get to us, talk to us, answer any questions. And we're more than happy to even if you have coverage, we're more than happy to even compare that coverage
Okay.
to some of the other companies, because what we are is an independent broker, and we have a platform that allows for 24/7 shopping.
Yeah.
But we'll take it and we'll go to partners like Cowbell, which is our number one partner. But we have other partners, access to Chubb, Traveler, CNA, a lot of players. And so we have the ability to kind of really try to figure out how to tailor the coverage to you.
Okay. Awesome. So sounds like you make it just as simple as grandma's raisin bread.
We're trying.
To be able to get a hold of you
Yeah.
and to walk down that path. This is a new concept for me, and I'm assuming it's probably a new concept for a lot of you that are listening to this and hearing this. I don't want to be naive and say you don't have any competitors. There's probably competitors out there. What makes you guys, just as we finish up this, that you can leave with the customers, leave with our audience, what makes you guys different? And outside of making that whole process simple, obviously you're pretty authentic, you're a genuine person. What's the differentiator between you and other people that are doing this right now?
Yeah, what I would say is that our goal and number one job is to make this as simple as possible. First and foremost, that's been our mission the whole time. The second thing, though, is that we are trying to be your partner. We're not just trying to be another broker for you that's actually just going out and getting a quote and then, hey, they don't see it till next year.
Right.
We're actually trying to be a part of the process. So we're trying to make sure that you understand the coverages that you're purchasing, that you understand what's going to happen when a claim occurs, and that we're also sitting right with you when the claim does occur, if it occurs.
Right.
So we're going to be sitting on the call with you and the insurance company and the experts and saying, wait a minute, let's make sure you understand X, right?
Right.
So we're going to be right there the whole time. Our goal and mission, again, is make it as simple as possible for you. We built a platform, and it's, so we have carriers actually on our platform where you can actually shop. A lot of companies, you do have to call them before you can get a quote. You can actually get a quote, then call us.
Oh, wow.
Right? And so, but we do like to talk to you because we want to help you understand it, right? And so that's really our purpose. But even if you buy from us, we're going to be hitting you with conversation about, okay, you understand this. We want to make sure, that you have a good footing on what that is. And then we're going to be sending you materials about, hey, are you doing this?
Right.
Do you understand cybersecurity? Do you understand phishing, right? Or do you understand smishing, which is text messages where they're trying to get your information?
Right.
So our goal is to continue to partner with you to make sure that you have a good plan, you understand cyber hygiene, you understand what the coverages are. So it's not just insurance, it's not just the technology, but trying to marry those things together.
I love that so much. Like it's such a strong differentiator. I mean, I think when we boil it down, it's simplicity. Even though it's simple to sign up or to take part in it, you guys want to be partners with the people out there. And we can relate to this because we have an initiative at TraVek as to be a thought leader in the industry, in our industry. And partnerships are big for us, and educating the community and educating our clients and our customers, that's really important for us too. And so I can relate to that. And I think most of the people in the audience can relate to that feeling. So Anthony, thank you again for being here and for sharing some of your wisdom with us. It's been really nice.
Yeah, I appreciate being invited, and thanks for allowing us to just get on here and talk about cyber insurance.
Yeah,
we are an insurance lawyer by training and heart, right?
Yeah, but it can be fun.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Insurance doesn't have to be boring.
It is never boring. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, I believe that. Well, thank you again for coming.
Absolutely.
Everybody who listened today, thank you for always tuning in and getting educated and just learning the little things that you can do that change your business or that can help you as a homeowner to avoid crises, to put yourself in a situation to always be successful and always do better. So again, thanks for joining us on the Before the Hammer Strikes podcast. We'll see you guys again next week.